can start the recording, of course, of course. I don't think, if I remember correctly, I don't think we went through the tips. One happy headbat? No, we are changing on every new recordings. We're of course gonna start. No, we're going with 3 happy headbats, and then we'll change them slowly but surely to terrifying Renas. Because we want to still be happy, because nothing bad is happening, right? We are at a very lovely scenario currently. So we didn't read tips yet. What's a drug that makes you commit suicide? No, I think it's better to... give Happy a chance to win this stream. Yeah. We'll change this for now.
直接的にはない。遠回しですね。では間接的にはあるってことですか？自殺したくなる精神状態を誘発することはできる。ちゅうことだ。難しい言い方になりましたね。何ですかその自殺したくなる精神状態ってのは。例えば一般的な心理学見地から言えばじゃが。心理面が内向状態から外向状態に転じるときに、
Well,
自殺が多いと言われちょる。
that is certainly one thing. Considering that I am suffering from bipolar disorder, that is certainly something that my doctor actually warned me about. That is, it is very dangerous when swinging from depression to mania. That it's very dangerous in that situation. Clinical depression and bipolar disorder are different. Clinical depression indicates a prolonged state of depression, whereas bipolar disorder is characterized by a passive depressed state accompanied by a very active manic state.
内向状態の時は自信を喪失し非常に悲観的だ。だが自殺もせん。
That's not exactly true. Clinical depression people do still commit quite often suicide, so...
自殺をする気力すらないからだ。
Well, they do still commit suicide, so whatever.
また自殺をせん。今度は逆に非常に自信過剰で行動的なので、自らを順風満帆と思う。
Yeah, mania on its own feels quite fantastic, actually.
なるほどね。どっちの状態でも自殺をしないのに、状態が入れ替わるときに自殺するんですか？内向状態には自殺願望はあるが、自殺という大仕事を遂げる気力すらもない。だが、外向状態が始まると、徐々に気力が充実し、体の自由が利くようになってくる。なるほど。つまり自殺する気力が回復するわけですね。
There is some truth behind what they are saying at the very least.
だからこの時期に変な気を起こさんように処方箋を施すわけじゃな。では、富武氏はこの心理状態だったんですかね。一般的に自殺はちゃんとした文化的な手法で行われる。
More civilized means. Oh, you mean clawing out your own throat wasn't civilized?
自虐行動とは全く違うぞい。富武氏の自殺は文化的じゃないですよね。ではやっぱり何かの中毒と考えるのが自然ですか。最初に言った自殺したくなる精神状態を起こす薬ってのを教えてください。鎮痛薬の一部には心理を内向から外向に過剰転換させる効果があると報告されとる。それから催眠作用を持つ薬を異常摂取した場合にも異常行動が報告される。一般的ではないの。
Okay.
その二つは検視の報告だと違うみたいですね。他の可能性は？あとは病気しか考えられん。甲状腺異常を引き起こす病気にしばしばそれに似た症状が報告されとる。だ、仏は違うの。
Oh.
もっと突発的に発生するものはありませんかね。今回のケースと合うような突発性で自殺したくなるようなやつです。
他には。そうじゃな。脳障害によって精神に異常を発生する状態じゃな。これは薬物中毒でも起こるが、脳の外傷や一部の病気なんかでも起こる。
つまり薬によらなくても異常な精神状態に陥る可能性があると。
仏は犯人に囲まれて命に危険が
A
迫ったからだ
really
ろ。
itchy throat. As someone who really has an itchy throat or really itchy skin, I can easily imagine myself clawing my own throat to the point of just bleeding. Yeah, yeah. Oh, she's friendly with people.
極度の緊張が続いて、それに分泌異常が重なって、さらに打ちどころが悪くて脳に障害が起こり、
Headpads are in the
自
way
虐行動に走った。
for
可能性
people who
もある
want to
かもし
read.
れんの。
もうちょっと省略して言ってくれませんかね。
つまり乱闘中に豆腐の角に頭ぶつけて、それで異常が発生したと言っとるんだ。
じゃあ星には殺意はなかったってことですかね。ちょいと小銭を巻き上げようと思ったらたまたま殴りどころが悪かったと。
Oh, don't. Oh, you. Oh, Oishi. You rapscallion. The two plump men laughed hoarsely.
なんてわけはありませんね。
Oishi's very friendly. He's such a friendly person. Like, there's nothing bad that he has ever done. It's just a police.
いかにも。薬物の常用にせよ、精神的なものにせよ、仏の身元が鍵を握っとるぞい。そっちはどうなっとるんじゃ。
あら、こんな時間。そろそろ戻らないとクマちゃん怒っちゃいますね。
Uma-chan.
おお、頑張れよ。いいお年をの。
いいお年を。
Hmm. Well, that was fun. Threat.
おや、今の皆さんは確か。
Yeah, I don't think Oishi's a bad person either.
議員バッジが2人いたっすね。
じゃあ剣技と市議の園崎だ。
面白いっすね。親戚同士で県議と市議やってんすか。
これがずるいんですよ。お互いの名前で慈善運動バンバン。片方の選挙中にはもう片方が別に講演会を開いて二重に選挙運動やってんですよ。堂々と。
よくわかんないんすけど、それって公選法違反じゃないんすか。
慈善運動にならない限り政治活動は無制限ですからね。クマちゃん、そんなんじゃ選対本部好きになった時大変ですよ。
Okay.
公選法くらいは勉強してください。
俺、知能犯化は無理っす。バカですから。
Because I'm dumb. There was Prefecture Assembly member Sonosaki and City Councillor Sonosaki. Also the mayor of Hinamizawa. All of them involved with the Sonosaki family. What crap.
お見送りしてんのは副所長とうちの課長っすね。
It came to me. That night, when the chief invited me along to get some Oden, I thought that was it.
大石さんは友達多いから聞いてるかもしれないけど、聞いてるかな。
いいえ、何も。
お母さん、 ガモにはんぺん頼みます。所長のとこに議員の怒鳴り込みがあったんだよ。
あれま、そうなんですか。あ、お母さん、私にもう一杯ください。
Oishi is always eating. Prefecture Assembly member Zonosaki and City Councillor Zonosaki were both intimidating. Our snot-nosed career police chief couldn't even handle being yelled at by them. They are like Yakuza. When your boss takes you out to dinner. Oh yeah! That's complete win.
君を指名して陳情してきたよ。
ありゃ、私はてはて。
とぼけるなよ。例のひなみ沢の過去の事件。蒸し返してるだろ。
私、富武殺しで手一杯でそんな余裕ないですよ。ね。
本当に？本当にそうならいいんだけどさ。
There was a period of silence. While we were silent, we made headway on our food and drink.
いやー、ごちそうになっちゃいました。今月は負けっぱなしだったんで財布つらかったんですよ。助かりました。
いや、いいよ。また馬教えてよ。
Tell me a good horse again. That's an interesting saying.
大井さんと同じ馬を買うから。
Oh, they are literally talking about a good horse. Oh, okay.
最近はダメです。
Okay. Well, I was wondering what exactly that meant.
タクシー
I'm going by train. Police chief is taking a taxi. Career snot-nosed chief. I have my own car, but it'd be rash to drive it home. Can't blow it right before retirement with a DUI. Even though he could still rattle off, it looked like his legs were already goo. Pushing him into the cab, I gave the driver the police chief's address.
ではではまた明日。良いお年を。
Happy New Year!
大井さん、
はいはい。
過去の事件は全部個別に終わってる。縦に並べるのはやめるんだよ。村の連中は半ば本気でタタリを信じてるんだから。
私だってタタリなんか信じちゃいませんよ。
大石さんは来年で退職じゃないですか。退職金でローン返してお母さんと北海道に引っ越すんじゃなかったっけ？
ばあ様がどうしても生まれの北海道に帰りたいって泣くんですよ。最後のご奉公なんです。退職金はまあ歓楽街で楽しむことにします。
Susukina,
な
It's going to be interesting to see what arc you're talking about. A public servant's pension is calculated based on their monthly salary. So if you were to get a raise right before retirement, your bonus, 2 years' salary, would be inflated, and you'd get a heavy surplus of funds. That tends to be how it's done around here. Best friend or worst enemy? Yeah. Oishi's an interesting character. Of course, it's not a custom that's thought of highly. The difference between the bonus and the pension is quite a bit.
さすがインテリの若所長は言い出すことが模範的です。
Egghead Chief.
私たちの給料が血税で支払われてることを思えば、まあ時代の流れですかね。
That's not something I can laugh at, but I'll laugh through it anyway.
僕も模範的なこととは思わないよ。でもまあ、大石さんはそれだけの退職金をもらってもおかしくない活躍をしてきたからさ。僕としてはぜひもらってほしいんだよ。
もらえるもんならそりゃ欲しいですけどね。
もらえるよ。大石さんが大人なら。
運転手さん、引き止めてすみませんね。お願いします。
I closed the door roughly, interrupting the chief's conversation a bit rudely. It looked like the chief still had something to say, but he just smiled wryly and waved. I waved in return. The cab sped up gradually and soon disappeared among the sea of lights.
参ったな。ローン返済できるかな。
Yes, it is rather interesting that he doesn't really get along that well. Well, on to the next chapter. And here where things get fun again. Tap, 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 tap. The sound of muffled footsteps stopped in front of the door to my room. A moment of silence, as if whomever they belonged to was uncertain if I was inside. Of all the things I should have been doing, I continued on with my restless slumber. I was very much conscious, but my body hadn't caught up yet, even with danger bearing down on me from just beyond the door. It was as if I was completely paralyzed, unable to move. Without a doubt, this was sheer horror. Please, just leave. Hey, why isn't my body awake yet? If they come into my room right now, then... What? Oh, I need to click. Yeah, it's understandable why people would be in stark contrast, or they would have problems with one another, considering that Oishi is like doing genuine police work. I sprung to my feet and threw my covers at my mom, who was opening the door.
何ケイチ、どうしたの？
あ、ごめん。
Yeah,
寝ぼけてた。
Oishi is a good man. A really good man. I thought it was still 1 or 2 a.m., but the morning sun was already streaming through the gap between the curtains. It felt nothing like morning. Oh really, you do find that out. I don't remember that in the anime. It felt nothing like morning. Yesterday I must have fallen asleep right after that. Then I should have gotten a full 10 hours of rest. But it didn't feel like that at all. My internal clock was completely screwed up and my sense of balance felt off. I felt feverish enough that it was clear to me that I was still not well.
体の調子はどう？学校行けそう？
I was well enough to go, but I wasn't mentally prepared for it. I was still plagued with the terror from yesterday. If I had swallowed that needle, what would have happened? They didn't emphasize it. That explains it. Or what if it had pierced my tongue? There was undoubtedly a murderous intent, but I don't think that's all it was. If they really wanted to kill me, then there were more certain ways to do it. They wouldn't resort to such dubious method as having me swallow a needle. Meaning, I didn't want to believe it, but going that far was just a threat from Rena and Mion. Aren't you glad you didn't die? But next time we'll use a more assured method. Like that. Something like sending a letter with a razor inside would have been a joke compared to this.
ちゃんと病院は行った？お薬は飲んだの？
うん。まあ一応。
How do you kind of take medicine? Something about my mom's dubious gaze bothered me. She seemed more concerned about her son missing 2 days of school rather than him being sick. It was definitely mental fatigue. I wasn't really physically ill.
一度生活のリズムを崩すとなかなか戻らないんだから。
Yeah. Yeah, that makes this, what you just said makes a lot of sense.
そら、起きて起きて。 病は気からって言うのよ。
Wellness is a state of mind. I'd heard that line many times before. I was given an award in elementary school for having perfect attendance, but it wasn't like I was healthier than everyone.
顔洗ってらっしゃい。ご飯はもうできてるわよ。もうレナちゃんが来るまであまり時間がないわよ。
I've got a real bad feeling about this. Mom's tone meant I couldn't argue about it, so I had to give up on skipping a second day.
そうそう。今の壁にぼたもちを投げつけたのはケイチ？ダメよ、あんなことしちゃ。お父さん、怒ってたわよ。
I didn't feel particularly guilty for doing it, so I didn't have much of a reaction. Also, Mom didn't question me any further about it. She headed back downstairs after she was certain I was getting up. What Mion said as she left yesterday, "I'd hate it if you missed school tomorrow," came back and dwelled in the back of my head. What did she mean by that? I didn't even have to really think about it. Yeah, he probably had perfect attendance. That would make a lot of sense. And it wouldn't be that unlikely. She was saying, "Don't be absent." Taking that a bit further, it was the same as her saying I should just go about living my life as if nothing happened. If I showed any signs of acting unusual, it would probably result in them making their move. For example, maybe I shouldn't pay attention to someone like Oishi-san enticing me with something unusual. Meaning, if I didn't watch my mouth or did anything differently from the norm, in effect, it would end up flagging myself as someone who was not wanted. And it seems that was something that the girls didn't intend to forgive. So if I just went along as normal, no harm would come to me. That was how it was going to be. Was that how it was going to be? All that misery I experienced up until yesterday would almost creepily just fade away. It was an enticing deal. Just by forgetting everything I'd seen or heard like these last few days, I'd be able to keep living on like normal.
そんな虫のいい話あるわけ？
I swallowed hard. I once again deliberated on the idea that I had just rejected. Mion was probably a good person who had her friends at heart. She was giving me, who had mistakenly broke some rule of theirs, a chance. Was what I did really something so unforgivable? But Mion had given me another chance. She was saying if I just forgot everything and kept living on like nothing, like I had been, I'd be forgiven.
ご飯冷めちゃうわよ。急いで降りてらっしゃい。早くしないとレナちゃんが来ちゃうわよ。
あ、今行くよ。
Well, at the very least the music is somber instead of creepy. I crammed my textbooks into my bag and hastily made my way downstairs. I picked at my somewhat bland breakfast. It seemed that I didn't have much time. It was already past when I usually met up with Rena. Given yesterday's events, she'd probably be here in the next 5 minutes. I needed to be ready to head to school by then. I had to forget everything that had happened the past 2 days. Forget it all and return to my normal life. For this to be normal, I'll have to be where I normally meet up with Rena. Today of all days, the ice was dry and hard to get down. And here we go. I jumped at the sound and dropped my chopsticks. A chime signaled that Rena had arrived. Mom hurried me along.
ほら、レナちゃん来ちゃったわよ。 急いで急いで。
My mother's merry smile and my gloomy face were polar opposites. Honestly, I was reluctant to see Rena, who was waiting there on the other side of the door. That ding-dong makes me tense as well. Rena on the other side. Was it Rena I knew? I couldn't keep her waiting. Yeah, the atmosphere is really freaking good. Yep. I need to do things as usual. An invigorating greeting filled in from across the doorway.
ケイチ君、遅かったから来てみたけど、今日はどうかな？
The manner in which Rena was concerned was without a doubt the Rena I knew. But that was probably only if I reciprocated. Forget everything from yesterday, pretend as though nothing had happened. Forget about the gruesome dismemberment. Forget about the mysterious deaths that happened the following years. Forget about the people falling to their deaths and the terminal illness and suicide and the lynching and the disappearances. Forget it, all of it. Forget that Renan and Mio were scary. Of course. Forget it all. Forget about everyone. Forget about the mochis too. Forget. Why am I so tense right now? Rena once again asked to make sure.
学校行けそう？
あ、大丈夫だよ。
Yeah.
よかった。
That's good. That's good.
じゃあ行こう。みーちゃん待ってるよ。
That's kind of... Rena showed me her usual bright smile. I couldn't find any hint of deceit in her expression. My nervousness dissipated, giving way to relief. No! Oh, the sudden silence just made me
な
jump.
のにさとこちゃんね、絶対にできるって意地になっちゃって。
Any sudden silence just makes me scared. But you see, Satoko-chan was... Oh, right. As we were walking, Rena talked about a lot of different stuff. More so than usual.
それで？
さとこちゃん不吉祥だから何度やってもできないの。かいかったんだよ。
Oh, everything's normal. Rena's a good girl. We can... Everything Rena talked about was just silly nonsense, so I just replied every so often and laughed from time to time. It was rather laid-back conversation. Yeah, definitely. One-on-one date alone with Rena. That would be lovely. We passed by one of our neighbors and they called out to us.
あれ？ケイチちゃんにレナちゃん。今日はちょっと遅いんじゃないの？
Yeah.
ミオンちゃん、先に行くって言ってたわよ。
みーちゃん怒ってるかな？怒ってるかな？早く行こう、ケイチくん。
As we smiled and parted ways with our neighbor, they turned back towards me and stuck out a tongue. Not expecting that, I couldn't help but crack a smile.
ケイチくん笑った。
なんだよ。
Rena stopped and stared at
ケイ
me.
チくん、今朝もなんか元気なかったから、まだ風邪が治らないのかなって思ってたけど、大丈夫みたいだね。
Yeah. With a grin, she gently poked my cheek. It was a bright, sincere smile. Hey, Keiichi Maebara. How can you still doubt Rena after she shows you a smile like that? Maybe I just had a high fever up until today, and I imagined everything that I thought happened because I was bedridden and delirious. I really hope that was the case. If God could grant me just one wish, there's only one thing that I'd wish for. I would want what had happened in the past few days. More specifically, from the night of Watanagashi up until last night, I wanted all of that to have never happened. I wondered how many times I'd wished for these past few days. As long as Rena kept on smiling like this, I think it might just become reality. So I wanted to Rena to keep on smiling. Keep on smiling.
ケイチくん、昨日のおはぎちゃんと食べてくれた？
Screw it. We're putting another GIF up. In a way, that wish would be rather special. I'm afraid to go on. I'm really afraid to move on. That vain wish of mine was instantly shattered. My heart began palpitating. The relaxed morning mood suddenly became frigid. Rena's smile was the same as usual. Her eyes were gentle as usual. Those mochi yesterday, did you eat them all? Of course she wasn't asking the question at face value. In other words, Rena was asking, did you get the message? She was probably trying to convey that.
ケイチくん、
I was reluctant to give an answer. Rena stopped walking and stared deeply into my eyes. Don't hesitate, Keiichi Maebara. Rena was acting the same as always, wasn't she? I needed to respond in my usual way. Naturally, of course. But my throat and my mouth had gone dry, and my lips were stuck together. Hurry and answer, Keiichi. Jesus, silence can be deafening. Not that much time had passed. I could still keep the conversation going naturally. I had to say something quickly. Rena playfully mimicked what I said when I finally squeaked something out. Rena's reaction was still normal. It seems that there wasn't as long of a pause as I had thought. Somehow, I finally squeaked out the rest. However, my strained efforts neither sullied nor brightened Rena's expression. For a moment I panicked, thinking I had replied incorrectly. But after a few moments, Rena broke into her usual soft smile and giggled with a joyful voice that seemed to echo through the morning air. What the fuck is that? There's a huge fucking moth in my room. I'm gonna do something about that right now. Oh, whatever, it's flying away. I don't need to care about that. That was actually kind of scary. Being strung along by that laugh, I couldn't help but laugh as well.
そうなんだ。
Every click is painful.
で、全部食べたのかな？
Oh no. I'm afraid to go on. I'm really afraid to go on. My timid smile froze again. Did you make it without swallowing the sewing needle? Was that what she was asking? Oh, there's manga as well. I should probably read that after all of this. That's quite a bit more lovely picture than I was imagining. If I had swallowed it, then I wouldn't be here.
いや、全部は 食べきれなかったからさ。まだ残ってるんだよ。
Yeah, it's still rather creepy. But it isn't as creepy as it has some more story than this actually. Ooh. I should probably read that at some point. I was scared out of my wits, but that's how I played it.
あれれ
Each arc is drawn by a different artist. That is interesting. I'm really gonna read the manga after I have played through Higurashi on stream then. To get the whole Higurashi experience.
どれがレナが作ったのか当てる宿題はどうなっちゃったのかな。
あの宿題って今日までだったっけ？
うん、今日までなんだよ。兄ちゃん怒るよ。きっと罰ゲームだね。
Okay. We both laughed at each other again. To a casual observer, it was just a typical morning. If I could just let myself believe, then even I'd think it was just the usual morning routine. But I was certain I wasn't mistaken. Okay. I'll certainly do that. I should probably have gotten my webcam by that time as well, so hopefully. There was something unimaginable buried beneath that facade of this giggling Rena. Jesus fucking Christ, don't scare me like that. I recalled that unexpected piercing voice that I could hardly believe came from Rena's mouth. The moment that image crossed my mind, I felt a cold sweat trickle down my back. Was it only at that particular time that something evil had possessed Rena? No, that was wrong. That was still Rena. Oishi-san told me, didn't he?
実は調べてみたら、竜宮さんは引っ越しの少し前に学校で謹慎処分を受けているんですよ。
Yeah. I'm smiling. I'm smiling.
なんでも学校中のガラスを割って回ったんだとか。
Well, Rena had a disorder that normal people didn't. No matter how pleasantly she smiled, that fact would not change. But I couldn't even imagine how she looked as she broke all the glass throughout the school. Only thing I knew was that it wasn't something spur of the moment. It was something. If it was some sudden outburst of anger, then maybe she'd break a pane or two. But she broke all of the windows all throughout her school. Just imagine going through your own school breaking the windows with a bat. Swinging full force at each pane of glass, one after another, paying no heed to the flying shards. Your classmates aghast, unable to move from the sudden turn of events. I wonder where she could have found the most windows lined up in a row. Probably the hallway. Walk, wind up. Walk, wind up. It was difficult for me to connect that horrifying image with Terena smiling at me right now. No, I do not actually remember the original reason, or if I don't remember the real reason, I think. I mean, the reason that we've been given was that because it was of Keiichi's father's job, but that's about the only reason I remember. Oh, that's lovely. But I just had to imagine it. Impossible because it was unimaginable. That naive way of thinking no longer worked. Jesus Christ, that noise is so piercing. The unpleasant piercing sound of shattered glass, the crunching noise as Rena treads across the broken shards, walking towards me. Rena's classmates going pale as they forget to even breathe. I wondered what they did as Rena came closer, breaking windows along her path. Did they earnestly try to bring her to her senses by saying something? Or did they jump at her, trying to stop her savagery? Or did they run to the staff room after being directed there by teachers? Probably none of those. Cute mini stories. Okay. I mean, it is probably quite easy to joke around the creepy stuff by having some fun little jokes. It's not hard to imagine that. In the face of the blood-curdling sight of Rena busting window after window, undoubtedly all they could do was silently clear a path for her. Dumbfounded, just clearing the path for Rena to continue. It was far too violent an act for them to seek refuge by looking the other way. That's not to say they were looking the other way. They they were doing the only thing they could to protect themselves. If they had done something differently from the rest, they may have suddenly found themselves as Rena's new target. Yeah, I can imagine that they would be quite hilarious. What would Rena have done to whoever attracted her attention? The answer was obvious. She would have undoubtedly acted according to her whims. Meaning I would be the next window. Rena staring into my eyes, shards of glass crunching and crackling underfoot as she drew closer. I was also drawn into her eyes, paralyzed. Then Rena struck me with the bat over and over again, like I was one of those windows. I crouched down on the floor, desperately protecting my head. Rena didn't care whether it was my head or my back. Zealously, she hits me again and again. What kind of expression was she making as she was doing this over and over again? I peered up to see. Her expression was so indifferent it was completely unnerving. Let me just check what this looks like in the original. No, it's just that expression. It's because no matter how many times she struck me, I didn't make as pleasant a sound as the other windows. She struck me continuously, over and over again. The sound Rena wanted didn't come out. Our classmates standing around didn't try to stop her. They didn't want to be the next window. Somebody save me. Turning a blind eye unless we're hanging out. But of course, everyone in class scrambled to obtain the highest standardized test scores. They'd gain nothing from saving a cram school tryhard like me. Oh, lovely. Eventually there would be a faint sound, similar to when you crack open a walnut, and some sort of reddish-black spray would shoot out. Anyway, it wasn't that Rena momentarily lost herself in her anger. After forcing myself to breathe and calming down my heart, I recalled what Oishi-san told me.
でですね、そのカウンセリングをした医師のカルテにレナさんの会話内容が記載されているんですがね、その中に出てくるんですよ。結構
何がです？
出てくるんですよ。お社様って単語が。
Following that, Rena was suspended and had regular examinations at the hospital. Then, as Rena was undergoing counseling, she has said it over and over. Oyashiro-sama.
親代様っていう幽霊みたいなものがですね、夜な夜な自宅にやってくる
What's
ってい
this
うんです
picture?
よ。
Oh, that is lovely. That is quite lovely. That's really a good way to express their piercing gaze.
枕元に立って自分を見下ろすんだって。
That was only a piece of their conversation, so I couldn't see the big picture, but it was by no means a happy little conversation. Yeah, it definitely cheered me up. Yeah, a whole bunch. Thanks for that. Let me, by the way, just move a chair for my legs. I kinda want to put my legs up. There we go. Then what Rena did was she saying that ghastly incident was a result of her being possessed by Oyashiro-sama. Up until now, I didn't want to believe in Oyashiro-sama's curse. That's why I wanted to say the mysterious deaths every year happened because of some sort of conspiracy. Every time I talked with Oishi-san, I was more certain that the deaths were the work of men and not some curse. Except if it was people perpetrating the incidents, my friends were somehow deeply connected. If I refused to believe that the curse was real, then I would have to believe those who acted the kindest to me were deeply involved in the incidents. Why? How? For what reason? Was Rena? Was everybody? It was much more painful and troublesome than accepting that it was just Oyashiro's curse. In the aftermath, Rena had admitted to her doctor that it was because she was possessed by Oyashiro-sama. I felt a strange sense of relief from that. So that's how it was. There wasn't a second side to Rena. She did that because she was possessed by something strange like Oyashiro-sama. It wasn't Rena's fault. Oyashiro-sama was the one to blame. I knew this was all backwards. Refusing to believe there was a curse, I wanted there to be a human perpetrator. Now that my close friends were there once under suspicion, I changed my beliefs at my own convenience, saying it was Oyashiro-sama's curse to blame. Which was better choice, accepting that Oyashiro-sama's curse exists, or that Rena and the rest of them were deeply involved in the string of mysterious deaths. I didn't want to think about it. If I just didn't think about it, I'd be able to continue the same as always. I wanted to believe that. But that was no longer possible. I had received their message. It was pathetic of me to try and bend the meaning to my own convenience. Regardless of my opponent being a human or curse, I won't let it kill me. As if I would just bend over and give in. For no good reason at all.
ケイチくん、さっきから変な顔してる。なんでだろう。
Inhaling sharply upon hearing Rena's voice, I came back to my senses. Huh. 4 to 5 early books thick. That's quite a huge difference. That's pretty ridiculous difference. Before I had realized it, we were already at the entrance. Shaking my head a few times, I exercised all those terrifying thoughts. No matter how you looked at it, there's no way Rena could have done such terrible things. It was like I was trying to placate myself. As I slid the door open, a blackboard eraser loaded with chalk dropped down on my head the moment I stepped into the classroom. The chalk dust went into my eyes, inducing a brief moment of agony.
鶴休みのケイチさんにはお似合いですことよ。 圭一もレナもおはようございますです。おはよう、さとこちゃんにリカちゃん。
Not quite in the mood for it, I didn't really react to Satoko's trap. Satoko braced herself as I passed by, expecting me to attack her. She seemed a bit disappointed as I simply walked by silently.
何なんですの？張り合いがありませんわ。圭一、まだ本調子じゃないみたいです。だから今日は加減してあげてね。
Yeah, suddenly there was a slap down on my shoulder. It hurt a bit.
よ、ケイちゃん、しっかり休んできた？
It was Mion. My mind was full of with the stuff about Rena, but Mion was also a party of interest. Remember, Keiichi, that hawkish gaze from yesterday?
ああ、おはよ
なんだなんだ。ずいぶんと覇気のない挨拶じゃん。差し入れのおはぎ、ちゃんと食べてくれなかったの？
Because I ate them, I'm like this. Those words were itching to be blurted out.
う。やっぱ食欲がなくてさ。いくつかは食べたけど、だいぶ残しちゃったんだ。
あれ、じゃあ宿題は？どれがレナの手作りかってのの回答は？
圭一くん宿題忘れなんだって。
ありゃー。じゃあ仕方ないね。罰ゲーム。ひひひひひ。
How hilarious. Just happy school days once again. Flashing a lurid smile, Mion returned to her seat. There was nothing from our exchanges that would cause our classmates to suspect anything was amiss. But of course, anyone listening to our conversations up until this morning wouldn't see anything suspicious. That was why it was so frightening. They acted in a way that regardless of whatever happened to Keiichi Maebara, no one would ever suspect them. That fact had me terrified. Soon the teacher came. After she asked how I felt and took attendance, another dull, ordinary day began. And that took about an hour. Let me just pause the recording momentarily here. And, well, soon after, yeah. Now's a good time to